Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Liladha Krishna Padam Lalita Shri Vishaka Nitam Cha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Suti Devi Pramanama Hare Vanchaka Gopgrubhasya Bhaktanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Bhakti Vinod Thakur Pranam Mantra. Bhakti Vinod Thakur Pranam Mantra. We should decide.
Okay.
Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate.
So today is the extremely auspicious appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Haribol! Bhaktivinoda Thakur is an example of how much Krishna loves the jivas of this world.
तो वो बताते हैं कैसे जो है भगवान कृष्ण जीव से प्रेम करते हैं.
Why?
क्यों?
First of all, it's not just Krishna, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's a Manjari.
क्योंकि जो भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर है वो एक मंजरी हैं.
The Manjaris are sold out to Radhika.
जो मंजरी होती है वो श्रीमती राधा रानी की दासी होती है.
They are her confidants. You know the word confidant? Originally French, I think.
गोपियाँ सखियाँ हैं.
They're the confidential maid servers of Radhika.
तो वो बहुत ही गोपियाँ सखियाँ हैं श्रीमती राधा रानी की.
It is said they have very less to do with Krishna directly.
और मंजरी का बहुत ही कम लेना देना होता है भगवान कृष्ण से.
It is also said that they have greater bliss and satisfaction than the gopis.
और बताया जाता है कि उनका जो सुख है और जो आनंद की अनुभूति है वो गोपी से भी अधिक होती है मंजरी.
Try to understand that's the power of Radhika. This very Radhika who's standing here in front of us today, she's got that power so that her confidants, her confidential associates, have greater ecstasy than the gopis. This is inconceivable, of course.
तो ये श्रीमती राधा रानी की बहुत ही असीम कृपा है. यही श्रीमती राधा रानी आपके समक्ष यहाँ पे है मौजूद है. वही इनमें इतनी कृपा है कि वो अपने गोपनीय जो सखियाँ हैं उनको इतना आनंद की अनुभूति देती है जितनी अन्य गोपियों को भी नहीं होती.
The Manjaris are 12-year-old girls.
जो मंजरी होती है वो 12 वर्ष की
They don't get any older.
बालिकाएं होती हैं.
They're eternally 12 years old.
वो हमेशा से 12 साल की ही बालिकाएं हैं.
So the thing is, if Radhika wants, she'll push one of them forward to have a relationship with Krishna. She micromanages who can have a relationship with Krishna. She micromanages it. If she's feeling good about some particular devotee, whether Manjari or Gopi, she'll push him forward.
और श्रीमती राधा रानी एकदम बारीकता से देखती है कि कौन सी मंजरी या गोपी जो किसको जो है भगवान के समक्ष उनको आगे धक्का देना है ताकि वो भगवान की सेवा कर सके.
She's the boss. Don't be confused about this. Who's the boss? Radhika is the boss. See, there's no chance of attaining the mercy of Krishna without going through Radhika. No chance. And there's no chance of obtaining the mercy of Radhika without going through Guru and Prabhupada. Anybody who thinks they can get the mercy of Radharani without Guru and Prabhupada is a flaming sahaja. That's true. There are hundreds of them in India. Oh, Radhe, 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 Radhe. In Vrindavan, hundreds of sahajas, and in Bengal, hundreds of sahajas, maybe thousands. Sometimes they imitate ecstasies and roll on the ground, you know. Yes.
जमीन पे लौटने लगते हैं,
Especially the Bengalis.
बंगाली जब
Bengali Sahajas are the worst.
बंगाली से सहजिया होते हैं वो बिल्कुल ही
There was one so-called Swami. He wasn't a Swami at all. He was a big, big, big cheater.
एक तथाकथित स्वामी के बारे में बता रहे हैं।
He came to the temple in San Francisco, probably 1968.
1968 के दौरान वह लॉस एंजलिस मंदिर में आए
It was before I moved into the temple.
और मेरे मंदिर में जाने से पहले वो आए थे।
Flaming Sahaja. Bengali,
वो एक सहजिया था बंगाली,
Baul, B-A-U-L. The Bauls of Bengal, famous Sahaja sect.
बाउल जो बाउल सहजिया है वो लोग
They're all expert musicians, experts,
बहुत ही दक्ष जो है,
great musician, good musicians and singers and like that. They sing, "Whoa, Radhe." That's how they sing, you know. That's not even an exaggeration, you know.
वो इसी प्रकार
More than that.
बड़ा चढ़ाने नहीं बता रहे, इसी प्रकार वो गाते हैं।
There was one Bengali Mata, very charismatic.
तो एक बहुत ही दक्ष जो है एक बंगाली माता थी।
She came to San Francisco. She was, you know, a coal player, the wooden drum, you know.
वो जो है जो मृदंग होता है,
Very expert.
ढोल बजाने के जो वाद्य होता है उसको बजाने के लिए वो
But she sang like that. All the devotees, dizzy-headed neophytes, dizzy-headed, everybody dizzy-headed.
जो नौसिखिया भक्त थे,
She was so good singer and all that. Good singer, excellent speaker. They're, because they're great.
माता जी भी बहुत ही सुंदर जो है गाती थी।
Ah, Krishna. Go on like that for minutes and minutes.
तो ऐसे ही मैं मिनटों मिनटों में वो इतने ऐसे सुर में गाती थी।
Well, she was so charismatic, you know, the devotees, the dizzy-headed neophytes, were ready to accept her as Guru Mata. Just see.
तो वो इतनी आकर्षक थी कि सभी जने उनसे आकर्षित होकर उनको अपनी गुरु माता बोलने लगे।
She's mentioned in Vyaski's book.
तो वो ये जो लीला है ये व्यासकी तो
I was there in San Francisco at the time.
वो सैन फ्रांसिस्को में थे।
When Prabhupada saw that the devotees, the foolish neophytes, were ready to accept this charismatic Bengali woman
प्रभुपाद जी ने जब देखा कि उनके जो नौसिखिया भक्त हैं वो लोग
As-
बंगाली माता को गुरु माता
when
मानते
he saw they were ready to accept her as Guru Mata,
हैं और वो जब प्रभुपाद ने देखा कि वो लोग उनको गुरु माता मानने लगे
he immediately smashed it. Yeah.
उन्होंने तुरंत ही इसका खंडन किया।
The Shinga Guru, no! Ah! He said, this is impersonal.
तो प्रभुपाद
See,
ने कहा कि इस
a real-
प्रकार से गाना जो है ये भगवान के निराकार रूप को
A real devotee wants to hear the name of the Krishna, not vowel sound.
तो वो जो है एक असली जो भक्त है वो कृष्ण का नाम सुनना चाहता है ना कि ऐसी आवाज़।
Anyways, so Thakur Bhaktivedanta, he is Banjari eternally.
और जो भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर है वो एक नित्य मंजरी है
And so most of our acharyas, they are Manjari.
और हमारे अधिकतर जो आचार्य हैं वो सब मंजरी।
Of course, Srila Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari.
श्री रूप गोस्वामी जो है रूप मंजरी है,
Sanatana Goswami is also Manjari.
सनातन गोस्वामी भी मंजरी है,
Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, also Manjari.
भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सुंदर ठाकुर वो भी मंजरी है।
So most of our lineage of accepted succession is little girls.
तो हमारे जितने भी जो अधिकतर आचार्य हैं हमारी गुरु परंपरा में वो सब
If
बालिकाएं हैं।
anybody ever asks you, what is the position of women in ISKCON?
कोई आपसे पूछे माताओं का क्या स्थान है ISKCON के अंदर,
You say, they run our movement, that's all.
तो हम हंसते हंसते कह देते हैं कि वही है जो इस संस्था को चलाने
Because this movement is run by Manjaris, just
वाली। ये
see.
जो पूरा संस्था है ये जो पूरा आंदोलन है ये मंजरी के द्वारा चलाया जा रहा है।
So, that is the position of Thakur Bhaktivedanta.
यह है स्थिति ठाकुर श्री भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर
Try to understand.
की।
These powerful acharyas, these powerful, extremely powerful, confidential associates of Radhika,
ये जो इतने शक्तिशाली आचार्य हैं ये सब श्रीमती राधा रानी के नित्य गोपनीय सखियां हैं।
they descend into this world on her order.
वो अवतरण लिए इस धराधाम पे उनके आदेश के
The
अनुसार।
same Radhika who's standing there in front of you. Same.
वही राधिका जो आप लोग यहाँ समक्ष
try to appreciate. She's the boss.
इस समय अभ्यास कीजिए, वही है मालिक।
You might say, Maharaj, aren't you going off the deep end now? Well, Prabhupada talks about Radharani. She says, "Your Krishna." Haribol. Yes, you try to understand. She owns and operates Krishna. You get that? Krishna, the Almighty Bhagavan, the Almighty Supreme Controller. He's a mere toy in the hands of Radharani. Why? Because she's Hladini Shakti. Pleasure potency. He cannot raise an eyebrow without her permission. He cannot smile without her assistance. He can't crack a joke or have fun with his coward boys without her assistance. You might say, Maharaj, I've never seen a picture of Radharani out with the coward boys. She's uppercut, unmanifest, she's there. Just like Prabhupada was asked, fortunately for us, Prabhupada was asked about Radha Parasarati. So, devotees asked, where is Radharani? Like a thunderbolt, Srila Prabhupada replied, you should know that Radharani is always with Krishna. Uppercut. But if you want a tangible manifestation, you have to ask yourself the question, on Krishna's chest, Govind, Tribhanga Krishna, who is standing right in front of us here, he also has Shrivats on his chest. Anybody doesn't know what Shrivats is? That's good, well educated, good. It's the little white hair on Krishna's chest. What that little white hair is on, and Govind, Tribhanga Govinda, the flute player, on his chest, that little white hair is there also. The little white hair is famous for being on the chest of Lord Narayan. Lord Vishnu, the Almighty Bhagavan, Lord Vishnu, Shrivats is there. On Lord Narayan, Shrivats is manifestation of Goddess of Fortune. But can the Goddess of Fortune directly consort with Tribhanga Krishna? It's called Rasabas. You know Rasabas? Incompatible, mellow. Not possible. Just like the Goddess of Fortune was observing the Rasa dance. She wanted to join in the Rasa dance with the gopis and Krishna. She could see they're having great fun. We're missing out on something, you know. She was not allowed. Certainly not. She was too attached to her bangles and fancy saris. Hey, she's a supreme goddess. She can do like that, you know. That's all right. We can't have attachments. She can. She can have attachments. She is God in female form. Therefore, it is Shrivats on Krishna's chest is Radhika. So in this way we understand the position, the confidential associates of Radhika Manjaris, how big they are.
इस प्रकार हम उनकी जो श्रीमती राधारानी और उनके मंजिलों की स्थिति को समझ सकते हैं,
Inconceivable.
उच्च स्तर पे है।
So on the order of Radhika, they descend into this world
श्रीमती राधारानी के आज्ञा पे वो लोग इस प्रकार
and become
अवतार लेते हैं।
the most powerful acharyas
वही है जो सबसे शक्तिशाली
in the line of Mahaprabhu.
श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु से आगे हैं।
If you want to say that Mahaprabhu sent the acharyas, that's fine.
आप कह सकते हैं श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने जो आचार्य बनाए हैं,
Who's Mahaprabhu?
लेकिन श्रीमान महाप्रभु कौन है?
Yes, primarily Radharani.
वो मुख्य रूप से श्रीमती राधारानी ही है।
Krishna assumes the mood and form of Radhika and the color of Radhika, golden color.
भगवान कृष्ण श्रीमती राधारानी का रूप और भाव अंकित करते हैं।
Therefore we say, Radhika, we call her Gaurangi.
इसीलिए श्रीमती राधारानी को हम बोलते हैं गौरांगी।
Gaurangi.
गौरांगी।
Gaurangi.
गौरांगी।
Well, that's who's standing before us here.
वही है हमारे समक्ष यहाँ खड़ी है।
Then how could imagine our good fortune? Who could imagine?
तो कौन सोच सकता है हमारा सौभाग्य?
So Thakur Bhaktivinoda, such a confidential associate. So if you want to say, no, Radhika didn't send her manjaris to this world, Mahaprabhu did.
भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर जो है बहुत ही गोपनीय पार्षद है श्रीमती राधारानी के, तो
Well-
इसीलिए आप कह सकते हैं कि नहीं, श्रीमती राधारानी ने भेजा, चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने उनको भेजा।
Well, that's poor fun of knowledge,
लेकिन ये जो है अपूर्ण ज्ञान है,
avidya, total ignorance.
ये पूरी तरह से,
Because who is Mahaprabhu?
क्योंकि महाप्रभु कौन है?
Primarily Radhika, actually.
वह मुख्य रूप से श्रीमती राधारानी ही है।
There's some Krishna in the mix.
तो
How much Krishna is in the mix of Mahaprabhu and how much is Radharani?
हम देख सकते हैं चैतन्य महाप्रभु के अंदर कितने प्रतिशत जो है कृष्ण है और कितने प्रतिशत श्रीमती राधारानी है।
This is Rajavidya Rajaguya, you know,
ये है राज विद्या राज विद्या।
not for puppy brain.
ये जो है छोटी मोटी बुद्धि वाले लोगों के लिए नहीं है।
The famous mercy of Mahaprabhu is Radhika.
और जो महाप्रभु की जो कृपा है सिंपल है वो श्रीमती राधारानी।
And so she's sending her most precious confidential associates, Manjaris, to this world to teach about her Krishna.
तो इसीलिए श्रीमती राधारानी अपने नित्य पार्षदों को भेजती हैं इस हजारा धाम पे, ताकि वो उनके कृष्ण के बारे में यहाँ लोगों को बचाएं।
Due to inconceivable good fortune, somehow we're in the mix.
लेकिन इतने जो हमारा क्या सौभाग्य है कि हम इस
Who could imagine? But Srila Prabhupada Nrsimha Gohi told us, when you see his disciples getting a little puffed up, he'd say,
श्रील प्रभुपाद जी कहा करते थे कि वो देखते हैं कि अपने शिष्य जो है थोड़े बहुत गर्वित हो रहे हैं,
I have created your good fortune.
लेकिन प्रभुपाद जब देखते हैं ऐसा गर्व अपने शिष्य में, तो
We shouldn't be
वो
fools to
मैंने
think,
आप लोगों का
oh yes, I was past life so pious and this thing and that thing. Forget
जो
it.
शिष्य सोचता है नहीं हम हमारे पूर्व जन्म का जो है
Prabhupada's creating everybody's good fortune,
श्रील प्रभुपाद जी ने हमारे सबके जीवन में सौभाग्य
and his confidential representatives,
और उनके जो गोपनीय प्रतिनिधि हैं,
they're carrying his Guru Shakti.
वो उनकी जो गुरु शक्ति है वो आगे को लेके चल रहे हैं।
So ultimately that Guru Shakti is also Ladini Shakti because it's not mundane.
वो जो गुरु शक्ति है वो भी लाभनी शक्ति है, क्योंकि वो तो भौतिक नहीं है।
So the history of Dr. Lode Thakur is fascinating.
और श्रील भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर का जो इतिहास है वो बहुत ही रोचक है।
His life was not full of, we say in America, peaches and cream. You know, peaches and cream with honey. Oh, very, very pucka.
तो इतना सीधा सीधा नहीं था उनके जो जीवन
Very nice, very nice. We don't see much in India, peaches and cream.
हमारे भारत में इतना ही जो बीजेपी से प्रेरित
His life, he had a tough life, you know. He had a tough life.
तो उनका जो जीवन भी बहुत ही कठिन थी।
Although he was born in a very wealthy family,
तो वो बहुत ही जो है धनाढ्य परिवार में जन्म लिए।
his grandfather was extremely rich.
तो उनके जो जो दादा भी थे वो बहुत ही धनाढ़ी परिवार से थे।
But his mother was not a Vaishnava.
तो उनकी जो माता थी वो वैष्णवी नहीं थी।
His mother was a Shakti devotee.
उनकी जो माता थी वो शक्ति
Durga.
माता दुर्गा थी, माता दुर्गा।
So, because they had so much wealth, you know, they would put on big festivals.
तो उनके पास क्योंकि इतना धन था तो इसलिए वो बड़े-बड़े त्योहार रखते थे अपने घर पे।
Sacrificing goats. I mean, this is Bengal, you know.
तो बकरी का जो है वध करते थे, उनको बलि चढ़ाते थे।
Sacrificing goats to Kali.
तो जो बकरियों का वध करके बलि चढ़ाते थे काली को।
And
क्योंकि वो लोग बंगाली।
they would have these British-style bands, big festivals. They would have big festivals.
तो उनके बहुत अच्छे तरह से जो है वो त्योहार मनाए जाते थे।
You know, it's called a tuba, those big giant brass with a huge tube on top, you know, tuba it's called.
एक बात है कि बारे
This
में
big.
बताया, तो ऐसे बजाते हैं हम लोग।
They're used in India for for wedding bands.
तो जैसे जो शादियां होती हैं उसमें वो लोग
Brass,
बजाते
you
हैं,
know,
उसी प्रकार
they're this big. They are, you know,
उसका जो मुख होता है जिससे आवाज आती है वो इतना
at least
बड़ा होता है।
half a meter in diameter. So this is going back to British tradition.
तो लगभग जो है आधे मीटर जो उसका डायमीटर रहता है।
So obviously the Indians took a liking to it.
तो ये जो है ब्रिटिश के दौरान से चलते आ रहा था और भारतीय को
Pa, you know, pa, wedding bands.
ये जो है इस प्रकार जो बातें आवाज करता था शादियों में।
So they had these wedding bands,
तो उनके पास जो है वहाँ भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर
big
ऐसे-
festivals,
ऐसे जो है वाद्य थे
all centered around Kali.
तो ये सब कली के त्योहार के बनाने के लिए।
Then the time came for Thakur Bhakti to get married.
और फिर समय आया जब श्री भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर जब उनका विवाह होने वाला था।
But in the days of yore, the marriages were performed very young.
लेकिन उन दिनों में जो विवाह भी था वो बहुत ही जल्दी शुरू की उम्र में ही कर दिया जाता था।
I forget his age exactly, but he was maybe 12 or something, and his wife was about 10
और
or
उनकी
9.
उम्र में-
Very, just a kid, you know.
उनकी उम्र लगभग 12 साल थी और उनकी जो पत्नी थी उनकी उम्र लगभग 10 वर्ष।
Thakur Bhakti describes it as a doll wedding.
भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर बताते हैं जैसे खिलौनों
You know, palanquin, she was carrying a palanquin, everything, but he said, he described himself as a doll wedding, you know.
तो वो बताते हैं जैसे छोटे गुड़ियों की जो शादी होती है उसी प्रकार की वो पालकी मारे की।
So who was his Vartman Pradashika guru, actually? Vartman Pradashika guru for Thakur Bhakti
मार्ग प्रदर्शक गुरु कौन है भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर?
He gives the credit to the gatekeepers at his estate.
तो वो जो है जो उनके राज्य के जो गेट कीपर जो ध्यान रखते हैं पहरेदार होते हैं उनको ये क्रेडिट देते
The
हैं।
gatekeeper used to recite from Ramayan, and as a boy, very young boy,
जो पहरेदार थे वो लोग बहुत ही गाया करते थे रामायण से।
Thakur would go and listen to the recitations of Ramayan, and he very much appreciated it.
और जो भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर को जाया करते थे और उनको सुना करते थे ये रामायण का जो वो
Well,
गायन करते थे और वो
So that was his, you could say, introduction to Krishna consciousness.
इसी प्रकार से भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर जो है कृष्ण भावनामृत से
These great souls who descend into this world, they are apricot,
तो ये जो महान आत्मा है जो आती है ये अप्रकट रूप में
unmanifest.
अप्रकट रूप में आती है।
No one except a self-realized soul can see who they are. No one except a self-realized soul can see who they are.
कोई भी ये नहीं मानता कि एक आत्मज्ञानी के अलावा कोई समझ नहीं सकता।
In this world, everyone is blind.
सभी जो है इस धराधाम पे ये सब अंधे हैं।
That's why we say, Om Agnanata Vrindasya Gyana Grasaka Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We're blind.
हम जो है अंधे हैं।
So, Radharani and Krishna Mahaprabhu, they're sending their divine confidential associates to enlighten us, the fallen souls.
चैतन्य महाप्रभु और अन्य जो है श्रीमती राधा रानी वो अपने नित्य पार्षदों को भेज रहे हैं ताकि हमारा जो है यहाँ
So Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he used to enjoy listening to Ramayan.
और ठाकुर भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर है वो आनंद लेते थे रामायण का पाठ सुनने से।
But he grew up in the 1800s.
लेकिन वो जो 1800 सदियों
In the 1800s, of course, India was under the control of the British.
18वीं सदी में भारत था वो समय ब्रिटिशर्स के अंतर्गत।
So this biography called The Seventh Goswami by my godbrother Rupa Vilastas,
तो ये जो स्वलिखित ये जो जीवनी है
he describes
सातवां सप्तम गोस्वामी
the Calcutta of the 1800s.
तो ये इसमें बता रखा है कि इस प्रकार जो 1800 सदी
It's
में
hard to imagine today,
ये अभी की स्थिति से बिल्कुल अलग
but
था।
in the 1800s, Calcutta was the intellectual headquarters of India.
लेकिन 1800 सदी में जो कलकत्ता था वो भारत का
All the most
बुद्धिमान लोगों का क्षेत्र था।
brilliant writers, philosophers,
वहीं से सारे प्रमुख
they were all
लेखक हैं,
centered around Calcutta.
लेखक फिलोसोफर जो बड़े-बड़े हैं सब जने उस कलकत्ता के ही
Of course, Calcutta really took a dive in the 20th century.
और फिर लेकिन देखते हैं हम कलकत्ता आज के ज़माने में बहुत ही नीचे अब हो गया है।
But then there was some good management, so it came back up again.
लेकिन अब जो है ये दोबारा आगे बढ़ रहा है।
Now it is becoming world famous as an IT city.
अब जो है ये पूरे विश्व विख्यात बन रहा है एक आईटी
On the way to the airport, so many high-rise buildings on the way to the airport. The IT industry has moved into Calcutta.
तो ये आईटी इंडस्ट्री है ये सब कलकत्ता में आ चुकी है वहाँ एयरपोर्ट के रास्ते में।
Anyways, it was formerly intellectual center.
तो वो पहले जो है
There were two camps. There were those who were brainwashed and sold out to the British conception.
तो ऐसे लोग थे जो पूरी तरह से जिनकी बुद्धि जो है सिर्फ ब्रिटिश लोगों के प्रति जो उनका ही दास बनना था।
So when he was growing up, Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he concedes that he was under the influence of the British conception, strongly.
तो वो समझ पाए जब भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर पढ़ रहे हैं कि हम लोग पूरी तरीके से प्रभावित हैं पाश्चात्य देश में।
He was studying all the famous Western authors that you'd never even heard of.
तो वो सारे पाश्चात्य देश के ऐसे लेखन जो
Because it's not included in the Indian education system.
आप लोगों ने शायद नहीं पढ़ा हो क्योंकि ये भारतीय शिक्षा के अंदर ये बताया नहीं गया है।
So he was, the English word is imbibed. You know, imbibed means pickled, brainwashed, very, what do you call, consigned into that conception, the British conception.
तो इसी प्रकार जो उनके अंतर्गत ये प्रवेश कर चुका था जो पाश्चात्य देश की संस्कृति है पूरी तरीके से
For a long time, actually.
बहुत समय तक।
So then the question arises, yes, but if he's a Manjari, how could a Manjari get involved with all this rubbish?
पूछ सकता है कि ये तो भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर एक मंजरी थे तो कैसे जो है वो इस पाश्चात्य देश से प्रभावित हो गए?
It's Leela.
ये उनकी लीला है।
All under the direction of Leela Shakti.
ये सब जो है लीला शक्ति के अंतर्गत ही है।
Leela Shakti is standing right in front of us here.
लीला शक्ति जो है हमारे यहाँ समक्ष यहाँ खड़ी है।
Radhika. So,
श्रीमती राधा।
play acting.
ये जो है नाटक के समान है।
Strain your brain to understand
अपने दिमाग को
that
प्रयास कीजिए इसे समझने का।
Radharani causes her topmost confidential associates to play act as if they were conditioned souls.
तो श्रीमती राधा रानी ऐसा लीला करती है ताकि जो उनके नित्य पार्षद है वो एक सामान्य जीव की तरह एक बद्ध जीव की तरह
They never really buy into the material energy. They can't.
लेकिन कभी भी वो जो है बद्ध नहीं होते भौतिक
They are nityasiddha. They're eternally liberated.
नित्य सिद्ध हैं हमेशा से मुक्त हैं
They don't become victims of the material energy the way we do.
वह भौतिक प्रकृति के अंतर्गत ऐसे नहीं आते जैसे हम
They always remain transcendental, but they're covered. They can't be seen except by suffering of the soul. Nobody can see.
वो हमेशा आध्यात्मिक रहते हैं लेकिन हम उन्हें नहीं देख पाते
Just like our own Prabhupada, his household life, when you watch the film biography of Prabhupada by Bhakti Swami,
जैसे हमारे पूज्य स्वयं प्रभुपाद हैं, अगर आप उनकी जो
it
जीवनी है वो देखें
extensively shows his household life.
तो जो उसमें जीवनी में ये बता रखा है कि प्रभुपाद जी का जो गृहस्थ
On that part of the film, there's almost no explanation of how he was fully liberated soul play acting, but it's not in there was no purport given in that household section of the film. There ought to be a purport there.
तो उस जो फिल्म है उस फिल्म में बता नहीं रखा था प्रभुपाद जी की जो गृहस्थ जीवनी थी उसमें कैसे एक नित्य से प्रभुपाद जी तब भी उसमें नित्य से थे, उसमें इस तरह से तात्पर्य के साथ नहीं बता रखा है.
Certainly could have been confused to be an ordinary human being.
लेकिन अब उस जीवनी को देखेगा तो कोई यह संशय कर सकता है कि प्रभुपाद जी भी एक सामान्य जीव.
Just like when he was a kid, his father gave him whatever he wanted.
जैसे कि प्रभुपाद जी जब एक छोटे बच्चे थे तब
He was daddy's boy, daddy's boy, daddy's boy.
तो वो एक पिता अपने पिता के एकदम
He wanted a cap pistol. They gave him a cap pistol.
तो उनको एक हाथ में जो है बंदूक चाहिए थी.
But he wanted two, one for each hand, so he was almost crying, asking his father, I want another, give me another one. So his father was so loving and self-driving. So play acting like ordinary human being. Same thing talk about play acting like an ordinary human being. But somehow or other they never lose their Krishna consciousness. But it remains buried in their hearts. Others can't see it. So, Dr. Bhaktivinoda, he fell under the influence, it seemed, of the British propaganda. There was an intellectual war going on between the British propaganda and those who were defending Vedic culture. Big fight was going on because the British already conquered India and they wanted to conquer by philosophy also. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was seeming to be under the influence of Western conception for many years. It wasn't until he underwent a search for Chaitanya Charitamrita that his Krishna consciousness started coming out. But in the 19th century, Bengal, Chaitanya Charitamrita was not available. He developed a desire to search out Mahaprabhu. But he could not find even one copy anywhere. Finally, Mahaprabhu led him to a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. As soon as he dived into Chaitanya Charitamrita, all resemblance to a non-devotee vanished. He immediately became sold out to Mahaprabhu. But because before the British propaganda, he was influenced by the idea that the Bhagvatam was, mythology. What Chaitanya Charitamrita is so full of nectar, it causes him to undergo a complete change of heart. Actually, later, one of his grandfathers was a Vaishnava, pure Vaishnava. After his material life was over, he retired and went to Orissa.
तो जब वो उनकी भौतिक जीवन खत्म हुआ तब उन्होंने विश्राम लिया और वो उड़ीसा गए।
And he was just chanting Shuddhanam, Japa. His grandfather became a Bhajananadi first class Vaishnava. The perfection in Vedic tradition. He retired from all fruitive activity, just dived deep into the holy name. Naturally, that had a powerful effect on Thakur Bhaktivinoda, because here he had an actual example of first-class Vaishnava. So, throughout his life, he was always situated in Krishna consciousness. Well, later, he started coming out, we say in America, came out of the closet. After his grandfather, also the same grandfather, was a psychic. Predicted he'd have a good career and the exact age at which he would get a first-class job. You see, he predicted it. So his grandpa was not an ordinary man. A psychic Vaishnava with great love for the holy name. Naturally, that had a powerful influence on the Thakur. Naturally, that had a powerful influence on the Thakur. So, when he completed his education, he got involved in the British government administration. He was brilliant in administration. He was such such a good administrator that there was competition amongst the British chiefs who could catch him for their jurisdiction. So he was a hot item. Now I'm trying to understand the contrast. The British were very concerned about their culture and traditions and all this. But don't you think it's ironic that the British were more open-minded than the modern Hindus? You heard me. Judged by the result, the modern Hindus are ashamed of Vedic culture, most of them. The majority are ashamed of Vedic culture. You could hardly find any Indians dressing anymore in Vaishnava dress. Hardly any. India's fallen really fast. When I first came to India in 1974, in this lifetime, still there was everywhere men dressed in langis, at least. No baseball caps. You know, the American cultural gift to the world, baseball caps, you know, the hat with a visor, you know. I strongly dislike them. I don't even like them if they have a picture of Krishna on the front, because it's a symbol of materialism in my book. This is America's export to the world, is not steel or computers even or whatever, you know.
They are talking, Maharaj, they are disturbing.
Huh?
Devotees are talking, Maharaj, they are disturbing.
America's biggest export to the world is not steel, it's not computer technology.
ये जो है अमेरिका का पूरे विश्व को ये किया गया है जो जितने भी आधार के
It is rubbish. Rubbish is the biggest export from the United States.
ये जो है सब कचरा है सबसे ज़्यादा किया गया है पूरे विश्व में
Rubbish books, rubbish television,
एकदम खराब किताबें खराब जो टीवी दिया गया
nothing but a steady diet of rubbish. That's it. That's their export to the world.
कुछ भी नहीं है
Anyways, Dr. Bhakti, he became rightly situated.
और बाद में जो है श्री भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर एक सही स्थिति में अपने आए
His grandfather had a lot to do with it.
और उनके दादा का इस पर बहुत प्रभाव था
So you could say that his grandfather, you could fairly say, be fair to say that his grandfather was one of his gurus.
और हम कह सकते हैं कि जो उनके दादा थे वो उनके एक गुरु थे
What I've started to say is the British knew he was a Vaishnav.
और जो ब्रिटिश लोग थे वह जानते थे कि वो एक वैष्णव है भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर
Oh, they're very puffed up, they're very into style and whatever, pomp, the word pomp.
वो लोग बहुत ही गर्वित थे अपने अपने जो रूप
Social structure, all this, their conception of culture.
तो ये उनकी संस्कृति तो उनको बहुत गर्व था अपनी संस्कृति
You go at a dinner, still, we see how it's infected India. I went to a 5-star hotel with Swami. He was giving a program there.
आज भी हम देखते हैं भारत के जैसे 5-स्टार होटल भी मैं एक बार गया था वहाँ पे
Still in the so-called higher classes, we see that how they're infected by the British conception still.
वहाँ पे भी अभी भी हम देख सकते हैं कि उस होटल में हम देखा कि कैसे लोग अभी भी पाश्चात्य देश के संस्कृति
You have your cup of tea. Oh, how are you doing, dear?
वहाँ पे वो लोग चाय पीते हैं एक कप में और फिर
With your
आप लोग कैसे हैं
little finger raised up, they consider this to be culture.
तो ये जब छोटी उंगली उठाकर ये जो है संस्कृति मानी जाती है
So very formalistic. That was the background against which Bhaktivinoda Thakur was performing his services, professional services.
ये इतिहास था जब भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर जब अपना कार्य कर रहे थे
Look at the contrast.
देखिए कितना
Put it on the table. You guys are young, future leaders of ISKCON society. Put it on the table and look at it, download it.
आप लोग एकदम जवान हैं आप देखिए आपके सामने पूरा जीवन
I'll give you a benediction. I'll give you a benediction. Later, you will remember these words. You will remember.
मैं आशीर्वाद देता हूँ कि बाद में आप उन शब्दों को याद रख पाएं आप याद रख सकेंगे
Cannot tell a lie in front of deities. Krishna will help, you see.
नहीं बोल सकता है यहाँ विग्रह
Mata smriti gyanam apavanam cha.
मत्ता स्मृति ज्ञानम अपोह
When at least expect all of a sudden, it'll come into your mind. Remember what Maharaj said? When you least expect it,
ये बहुत ही कम उम्मीद है
come into your mind. Remember what Maharaj said? Because Krishna is God. Mata smriti gyanam apavanam cha.
कृष्ण जो है ये ज्ञान देते हैं मत्ता स्मृति ज्ञानम वो भगवान हैं
So the point is that these puffed up, stylistic British,
तो ये जो गर्वित जो ब्रिटिश लोग थे
they knew that Thakur Bhaktivinoda was a Hare Krishna. They knew it.
वो जानते थे कि
He didn't hide it.
ठाकुर है ये हरे कृष्णा वाले हैं
Nowadays, what if they think what if they know I'm a Hare Krishna?
उन्होंने इतना ध्यान नहीं
No.
लेकिन आज
They have to think I'm a meat eater like them. This is advancement of Hindu advancement, and it's infected our society. It's infected our ISKCON society.
ये जो है आज के हिंदू लोग
Certainly,
ऐसा
big
सोचते
time.
हैं और इसी से हमारा जो ISKCON सोसाइटी प्रभावित है
A man goes to work in his karmic laws.
इसके कारण ही जो अगर पुरुष जब जाता भी अपने कार्य
He comes home. Maybe he takes a bath, maybe he doesn't.
और जब वो घर आता है तो फिर हरे स्थान पे नहीं करता
Do the devotee men put on Vaishnav dress?
तो अगर कोई भक्त होगा तो क्या वो वैष्णव के कपड़े पहनता
Most of them don't. They're addicted to the British conception, you see. More fallen than the British because the British could appreciate, well, he's a capable man, we want him. Never mind if he's a Hare Krishna.
पाश्चात्य देश की संस्कृति से प्रभावित हैं लेकिन पाश्चात्य जो ब्रिटिश थे वो लोग
They didn't care.
वो
They did not care that he was a Hare Krishna. They didn't care at all because he was very competent.
उस समय जो ब्रिटिश लोग थे वो लोग बड़े खुले दिमाग के थे, वो इसको स्वीकार करते थे भक्तिनाथ ठाकुर बड़े हरे
So
कृष्ण वाले थे, पर
they
उनके
gave
जो
him
अपने कार्य बहुत दक्ष थे,
the position of magistrate.
उनको जो है मैजिस्ट्रेट का स्थान दिया था।
That was a very big position under the British
ये
government.
बहुत ही उच्च स्थान है ब्रिटिश सरकार के अंतर्गत।
You all know that he was in charge of the temple of Jagannath Puri.
आप सब जानते हैं कि वो अध्यक्ष थे जगन्नाथपुरी के मंदिर के।
But he was also a judge, you see. The magistrate was something like chief minister almost, the same league.
हमारे जो उस समय जो मैजिस्ट्रेट था वो आज के मुख्यमंत्री के स्तर पे माना जाता है।
Very big
वो
jurisdiction
जज भी थे
and also legal judge.
और वो एक जज भी थे।
So one of the most famous activities in his biography,
ये बहुत ही जो फेमस बता रखा है।
there was this demon
तो एक बहुत ही प्रसिद्ध एक असुर था,
with long hair
उसके बहुत ही लंबे बाल थे,
who was allowing himself to be worshipped as incarnation of Lord Vishnu.
तो वो जो है अपने आप को सब दूसरों का अनुमति देता था कि आप लोग जो है मेरी भगवान विष्णु की
The
तरफ
foolish people thought he was God.
और जो
This
मूर्ख
is-
लोग थे वो मानते थे कि वो भगवान
It's still going on. If you have long hair and charismatic, oh, Bhagavan.
आज भी चल रहा है। कोई यदि व्यक्ति कोई लंबे बाल रखता है तो वो ये भगवान है।
You rascals, then why can't Bhagavan, your Bhagavan, lift a mountain on one baby finger? Why not? I challenge.
तो इसीलिए ऐसे मूर्खों को मैं चुनौती देता हूँ, क्यों वो जो है गोवर्धन या किसी पहाड़ को अपने छोटी उंगली को
Can't do it.
वो ऐसा नहीं कर सकते।
Prabhupada makes a joke like this.
प्रभुपाद जी ऐसा हास्य करते
All these so-called incarnations of God,
हैं। ये सब जो तथाकथित अवतार है भगवान के,
now God has a toothache.
तो अब जो है भगवान का भी
Take me to the dentist, take me to the dentist.
तो जैसे ही उनके दांत में दर्द होता है तुरंत वो कहते हैं ओ मेरे को
This Prabhupada tells like this, you know. He makes a joke out of this, all of these rascals and charlatans and cheaters.
प्रभुपाद जी ऐसे झूठों और जो नकली गुरु थे उनके ऊपर।
The good news is they're all going to fade into history.
तो जो अच्छी खबर यह है कि ये सब जो है
They're all going to be eclipsed by Srila Prabhupada.
और ये सब जो है आच्छादित कर दिए जाएंगे श्री प्रभुपाद जी के द्वारा।
Some, the airhead reporter asked Prabhupada, can you do any kind of magic? These reporters sometimes so really stupid,
एक बार एक रिपोर्टर ने जो है प्रभुपाद जी से पूछा क्या कोई जादू कर सकते हैं?
Yes, I took all these mlechas, all these low-class people, turned them into pure Vaishnavas.
मैंने इन सब मनुष्यों को इकट्ठा किया और इनको सबको वैष्णव बना दिया है।
Haribo. That is my magic,
यही मेरा जादू है।
Requires a little intelligence to see.
इसके लिए थोड़ी बुद्धि चाहिए इस चीज़ को देखने के लिए।
Thakur Bhaktivinod is a keystone. Keystone, like when there's an arch, at the top of the arch there's a keystone.
तो वो जो है मुख्य जो है जो पत्थर थे इसके
Of this Krishna consciousness movement.
इस कृष्ण भावनामृत आंदोलन के।
He was revolutionary. He was the first acharya to really bring out Krishna consciousness in terms of preaching.
वो एक बहुत
I mean to
बड़े
say,
क्रांतिकारी थे क्योंकि वही एक आचार्य थे जो कृष्ण भावनामृत को लेके आए थे।
though, might you say, institutional preaching.
तो भले जो है उन्होंने ये संस्था और ये आंदोलन का प्रचार
I think it was Gorkashordas Babaji. Somebody asked Prabhupada what about his chanting. In other words, okay, so big acharya, but how did that, what do you call, impact the world? Is Bhajanandi,
जो हमारे जैसे गौर किशोर दास बाबा जी महाराज है वो एक भजनानंदी थे। तो प्रभुपाद जी से पूछा कि उनका क्या प्रभाव है हमारे आंदोलन पे।
Prabhupada just smashed that foolish person
तो बाबा जी ने उस ऐसे मूर्ख व्यक्ति को एकदम
who was chanting so powerful, filling the three worlds. This is nonsense. This idea.
जो उनका जो जप है वो इतना शक्तिशाली था, जब
So, Dr. Bhakti, he started the Mahatma programs.
तो श्री भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर ने नामहट्ट कार्यक्रम शुरू किए।
It's very much to credit of Jayapataka Swami that the Namapahatta programs that are spread all over the world today in ISKCON, or yes, in ISKCON primarily.
तो जो इसका भी श्रेय है, जो ISKCON संस्था में हमारे इतने सारे नामहट्ट जो कार्यक्रम चल रहे हैं, सब श्रेय
Carbon copies of the program established by Thakur Bhakti. That's why they're so successful, you see.
ये जो है एकदम यथारूप में श्रील भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर ने जो कार्यक्रम रखे थे उसी का एक यथारूप में प्रस्तुत किया।
Jayapataka Swami simply followed the example of Thakur Bhakti.
जयप्रकाश स्वामी महाराज ने यथारूप में पालन किया है जो श्रील भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर।
He had an institution. He's had some kind of organization.
उनकी भी एक प्रकार का जो है संस्था थी।
But it was nothing like Gaudiya Math.
लेकिन गौड़िया मठ की भांति नहीं थी।
But Trikalagya, past, present, future.
वो त्रिकालज्ञ थे।
He envisioned such an Vaishnava organization.
तो उन्होंने पहले ही ऐसा सोच रखा था कि ऐसा एक वैष्णव संस्था होगी।
And he imbibed, you know the word imbibe? Planted it into the heart of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
उन्होंने इसका बीज बोया था श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर के हृदय में।
Is Thakur Bhakti empowered Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to establish the great and mighty Gaudiya Math in its heyday. You know, heyday, you know the word heyday? When the sun is shining, you make hay, you know, not when it's raining.
ये भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर थे जिन्होंने सशक्त किया था श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर को, जिन्होंने गौड़िया मठ की स्थापना की।
It's a famous American saying. In other words, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was forming and establishing Gaudiya Math, it was very powerful.
दूसरे शब्दों में जो श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर जो ये गौड़िया मठ की स्थापना कर रहे थे, बहुत ही शक्तिशाली कार्यक्रम।
It was only in his later years that due to false pride it began to deteriorate, but it was extremely powerful in his golden age.
केवल जो है बाद की उम्र में हम देखते हैं जो उनके मिथ्या अहंकार के कारण ये जो गौड़िया मठ में गिरने लगा।
So that was from the vision of Thakur Bhaktivinoda.
ये जो है पूरा सोच थी श्रील भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर।
He empowered Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
उन्होंने सशक्त किया था श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर।
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in turn empowered Srila Prabhupada.
और अपने मौके पे श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर ने सशक्त किया।
This is how Guru Prabhupada operates.
और इसी प्रकार गुरु परंपरा चलती है।
So we're enjoying the benefits of the vision of Thakur Bhaktivinoda.
तो हम लोग जो है आनंद ले रहे हैं क्योंकि यह श्रील
This
भक्तिविनोद
great
ठाकुर
society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, fulfilling the vision of Thakur Bhaktivinoda.
और ये जो ISKCON की संस्था है यह श्रील भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर के।
So we are eternally indebted to him
तो इसीलिए हम हमेशा जो है उनके
for inspiring the development of this Krishna consciousness movement.
उनके आभारी रहेंगे क्योंकि उन्होंने इस संस्था की स्थापना की।
We just have to continue in the spirit of our acharyas, that's all.
तो हमें बस उन्हीं की जो उन्होंने देखे गए हैं उसी को हमें जारी रखना है।
Prabhupada gave 100% credit to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
प्रभुपाद जी ने भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर को पूर्णतया जो है इसका
Directly he would say, my success is I'm just following what was given by my Guru Maharaj.
और वो सीधा बताते थे कि जो मैं जितना भी मेरा सफलता मिली है वो सब श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर के।
So ISKCON is a carbon copy of Gaudiya Math in its golden age.
इसीलिए ISKCON जो है वह कार्बन कॉपी मतलब यथारूप में है जो गौड़िया मठ था, जब गौड़िया मठ अपने गोल्डन एज में था।
Of course, ISKCON has made some Deshakalapatra adjustments because that was a different age, a different era.
तो ISKCON ने थोड़ा बहुत जो परिवर्तन किया है देश काल पात्र में क्योंकि वो उस समय अलग समय था और आज अलग समय है।
I previously explained how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was criticized for riding in a Model T Ford.
तो मैं आपको पहले ही बता चुका था कैसे उस समय निंदा की गई थी श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर की जब उन्होंने एक
Sadhus didn't do that in those days. Sadhus walked barefoot, that's it, you know.
उस समय के लोग ऐसे ही मानते थे कि जो साधु है मतलब नंगे पांव चलने चाहिए।
So, powerful revolutionary.
बहुत ही बड़े क्रांतिकारी थे।
So you have to ask, Who was he inspired and trained by?
आप पूछ सकते हैं कि इनके द्वारा उन प्रशिक्षित किया गया है।
Thakur Bhaktivinoda.
तो वो थे श्रील भक्ति
Practically
विनोद ठाकुर।
speaking, his whole success was based on the vision of Thakur Bhaktivinoda.
जितनी भी
But
सफलता थे भक्ति सिद्धांत श्री ठाकुर की, वह सब आधारित थी श्रील भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की
due to
शिक्षा पर।
Deshakalapatra restrictions, Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he could not develop an institution at that
लेकिन
time
देशकाल पात्र की वहाँ पे दिक्कतें थी, इसीलिए भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर
as,
ने ऐसी संस्था
as,
उस समय नहीं बनाई थी।
as powerful as the Gaudiya Math.
गौड़िया मठ के भांति एकदम ऐसी संस्था उन्होंने नहीं बनाई थी।
He was just planting the seed, just getting it going, getting started, getting this Krishna consciousness movement started.
तो वो बस ऐसा उन्होंने उनकी सोच थी कि मैं बस इसको आरंभ करूँ कृष्ण भावना
And
को।
carried out by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur
और वह चीज़ जो है श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत ठाकुर
and
ने
amplified by Srila Prabhupada.
और फिर जो है इसको और
This is
बढ़ा दिया
this is
श्री
the
प्रभुपाद
concept.
ने।
Try to understand. This is the concept.
तो यही गुरु परंपरा था।
So if we could just carry on in this tradition of Guru Parampara,
तो अगर हम इसी प्रकार जो है चलते रहे गुरु परंपरा में,
on this auspicious day we should honor Thakur Bhaktivinoda very nicely,
आज के दिन हमें श्री भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर को बहुत ही आदर देना चाहिए
recognize our debt to him for establishing this movement.
और अपना आभार उन्हें प्रकट करना चाहिए कि कितना उन्होंने संघर्ष किया है
He was also Jagaguru,
स्थापना के लिए। वो भी एक जगत गुरु थे।
but because he put it out there, he put out the dream of what this movement was to become.
क्योंकि उन्होंने जो है आगे रखा कि जैसा उनका सोच थी, जो उनका सपना था, उसको आगे रखा बनाया।
You all know that from his home he could see the golden temple.
और वो अपने घर से देख पाते थे वो सुनहरा
He
मंदिर।
could see the effulgence.
वो देख पाते थे वो मार्ग।
He knew what was coming. He knew what was coming.
और वो जानते थे कि क्या आने वाला है यहाँ।
He knew how this movement would spread all over the world. He knew that.
जानते थे कि यह कैसे ये पूरे आंदोलन ये पूरे विश्व भर में फैलेगा।
So on this auspicious day, we should give him full credit for that.
तो इसीलिए आज के इतने पावन तिथि पे हमें पूरा आभार प्रकट करना चाहिए।
Jagaguru Thakur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.